Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Parker from Thunderbirds reckons there won't be another independence referendum in his lifetime. Although given that he's 69, that doesn't mean it won't happen soon. But it's unlikely, he says. Now, of course, by Parker, we mean Alistair Darling, who, of course, led the Better Together campaign back in 2014. I wonder what Lady Penelope would say. But he's pretty sure that it's basically not going to happen. He says the calls aren't there. They say the climate isn't right, and in the fullness of time, as Sir Humphrey would put it. But basically, yeah, and I think he's right. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. Probably not, and I would suggest probably not until a minimum of 2030, and even then, probably not until nearer the middle of the 2030s, 2035 perhaps. And if you're looking another 12, 13 years, then, maybe Parker's right. Although he would only be in his early 80s. There's no reason why he couldn't. But even if the referendum was granted, I don't think they'd win it. So I think Scotland is certainly safe in his lifetime. And we'll take a look at this, though, to see why he is so sure about it. Here goes. 5. No, I'm not going to do that. Right, and before we get into it, a very quick tangent. David Graham, who played Parker in the original Thunderbirds back in 1966, I think it was. He's still alive, I think he's either 98 or 99 years of age, so well done to him. Let's hope he makes it to the big 100. Anyway, Alistair Darling says there won't be another Scottish independence referendum in his lifetime. The leader of the Better Together campaign said in 2014 that he will never see another divisive vote on breaking up the United Kingdom. And he's still sticking by that prediction. And I don't, I don't, like I said, I don't think he's wrong. I can't see it happening anytime soon. And even if it were to happen, unlikely as it is, it would be virtually impossible for them to win it. So, there's children as yet unborn who will still be in the Union. It's just not winnable. Anyway, Alistair Darling, leader of the Better Together campaign, which defeated the separatists in 2014, has predicted there will not be another Skexit referendum in his lifetime. The 69-year-old former Labour Chancellor says nationalists have run out of steam and time. They've run out of a lot of things, haven't they? He said, and he insists the SNP's woeful record in power has caught up with them. He describes himself as the most pessimistic person you could ever hope to meet. Oh, I'd hope never to meet him, let's be honest. But his outlook on Scotland is that the Union is positive and indeed safe, and I think it will be for such a long time. It's funny, he should have joined the Conservative and Union Party if he felt so strongly about it. Anyway, he said support for independence has had its ups and downs. He said there's still a significant minority support for it, but despite Brexit, despite Johnson, despite COVID, it has not changed. It has never been a majority, he said. I said at the end of 2014 there wouldn't be another referendum in my lifetime, and I still think that now. And I think he's right, as I say. I think the once in a generation was enough. And if the vote goes down next time, you've got to say, look, let's not do it once in a generation. Let's do it in 50 years' time, maybe. By then, of course, it won't matter, will it? In a scathing assessment of the SNP, Mr. Darling told The Times, the nationalists have run out of steam and run out of time. Their record has caught up with them. There's hardly anything you can point to that remotely looks like a success. It happens to all governments eventually. Once you've been around long enough, things catch up with you and it's caught up with them. I can't point to anything, not one single thing that the SNP could stand on their record and say, look, we did this and it was a roaring success. Not one. No, I mean, I'm thinking hard. I can't think of anything that could be described in any way as a roaring success. All they have is different levels of failure, don't they? He said that Labour's thumping win in the Rutherglen and Hamilton by-election illustrates how enthusiasm for the SNP is waning, and predicted his party's years in the doldrums are over. I think he's probably right on that as well. I think it's undoubtedly going to be a Labour government. It's a question of how big the majority is. And if they want to do anything about it, the Tories have to ditch Rishi Sunak right now. If Rishi is leading them into an election, the Tories are done. Anyway, he said, I think the country in Scotland, the whole of UK, is looking for change and above all hope, and he's doing a bit of electioneering mainly. Blah, 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 blah. He compared the SNP's trajectory to the disastrous course set by Labour when they went from 41 Westminster seats in Scotland in 2010 to just one 5 years later. Well, they've doubled that now. They've had a 100% increase. It's amazing, isn't it? Well, it's amazing there. Then you've just got to look at the two elections that have just happened, in Mid-Beds and... Was it Selby? Anyway, no, it wasn't Selby, was it? Wherever it was. There was the two of them just recently. And one was like a 25% swing and a 20% swing. Now, if that is sort of replicated all across the country, I mean, Labour, first of all, in Westminster, Labour are going to have such a massive majority. But also, the SNP, theoretically, could be down to 6 MPs. Now, since they require so much money from those MPs, that the Parliament gives them because of their size, they rely upon that as a party. That's a massive jolt to their funds. I mean, that is, as in, it could put them over the edge. They could actually be wound up. So it's up to the people of Scotland, Labour and Tory and Lib Dem, whoever it is, tactical voting. Don't vote for a party, vote against the SNP. That's the only way. Get them out. They could actually cease to exist. And then there would be sanity again. I'm not saying that either the Tories or the Labour are good. I think they're both awful parties because they're both filled with awful people. But at least they're sane, generally speaking. Anyway, Mr. Darling said, the problem back in 2015 is that we lost confidence in ourselves. I think it's more that the people lost confidence in you, which is what is happening to the SNP now. People see that. He says, I'm optimistic that if we can carry on building people's confidence in us, if we can show we can make a difference, despite all the difficulties he's had, there's no reason we can't do well. I don't think you need to do anything. I just think you need to do what Anna Sowar does. He keeps his mouth shut. But by not saying anything, he doesn't divide people. And when something needs to be said, he sends out Jackie Bailey. That's why Labour's doing well in Scotland. Anna Sowar doesn't feel the need to constantly give a running commentary on everything that's happening and explain his position on every single thing. He just knows to keep his mouth shut. What is it Napoleon said? When your opposition, when your opponent, the enemy, is making a mistake, never interrupt him. And that's what Anna Sawar's doing. He's just keeping his mouth shut and sitting back and just letting the SNP shoot themselves in all 3 feet, And that's the trouble with the SNP. The left hand doesn't know what the extreme left hand is doing. They're factional infighting left, and Labour's reaping the bloody rewards. And again, down south in England and that, the sort of the UK Labour Party, they are reaping the rewards from all the infighting in the Tories. Well, not to say that there's no infighting in Labour, of course, but it's not as virulent and it's not as sort of publicised. But the Tories are just absolutely hating Rishi Sunak now. The letters are going in. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a leadership challenge very, very soon. Anyway, there we go. I'll just bring that off. So it all depends now on what Scott, Gordon and Alan think. Anyway, I shall round off and come up. So, there you go. It's all starting to work out well for Labour. In fact, it could work out even better. You may or may not know this, but where I am, he's not my MP, but next door, next constituency, is a guy called Peter Bone. Bone by name, Bone by nature. He's left his wife and has run off and having it with one of his research assistants who's about 20 odd years younger than him. Nice work if you can get it. Well, for him, not so much for her. But anyway, he's facing all this censure thing from Parliament, and they're going to have a vote. And if he gets voted out, he could get 20 days ban. That would lead to a recall petition. There could be another by-election. And I think Labour would win that. So I think Labour are all up in the air going, oh, yes, please, oh, we'll have some of that. And it's not looking good for Rishi. I mean, another scandal. And on top of that, he's already got the papers going in. People are writing letters into the 1922 committee. He could be out. He could be out by the next week. That'd be ironic, wouldn't it? He ousted Boris. He ousted Truss. And he could be ousted within a year. Well, it's a year now, isn't it? It's just a year since he ousted Truss. So there you go. That would be pretty delicious. And then, of course, they'd have to hang on as long as possible, probably October next year, to get the election to give the new leader time to bed in and build some kind of safeguard. Who knows? Anyway, before I go, just a little aside. Before I go, talking of Thunderbirds earlier, The 5 Thunderbirds pilots, John, Scott, Virgil, Alan, and Gordon, they're all named after the NASA's Mercury program pilots. There you go. I'm sure a lot of you knew that, but just in case you didn't, now you do. It's a font of all knowledge here, you know. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that has, well, I was going to say I hope it's educated you somewhat, but it has if you're a big fan of Thunderbirds, unless you already knew it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, you know, what's going on with Darling. I mean, I think he's right. I cannot see any chance of a referendum in the next, I'm going to say 12 years. The next dozen years, minimum. Anyway, who knows? I'll be dead myself by then. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and enjoy your day. Bye.